Welcome back to my channel. On this video I'm going to cover the barrel and the tensioning, the shroud, and probe stuff, and basic ins and outs of the barrel. I'm not going to go into detail about each individual barrel, just about the overall mounting it and adjusting it and all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty simple change out. You have the probe screws into a carrier. If you cock this, you cock the gun, but don't cock it all the way. Just open it till it stops, and then the probe is partially still in the mag well. Through the top of the gun, there's an oval slot with a set screw, and I believe that is a 2.5 millimeter. That goes into a slots on the probe. I don't know if you guys are all going to be able to see it, but the probe has 3 flat spots. I'm rotating it as I'm doing it, but there's 3 spots, so you can have, not an infinite adjustment, but you have several adjustments. So for adjusting the depth, that's awesome. I pull the set screw all the way out myself, and then I remove the probe, put the new probe in, and then I can look through the hole and tell when I'm in the flat spot to put the set screw. And you don't have to monster it either. It doesn't have to be super tight. You just, cinch it down, and that's good. There's probe depth. Basically with the probe depth, you're looking at not pushing the projectile too far, but also not pushing it enough. You don't want the skirt of the pellet hanging over the transfer port, or even the base end of the slug into the transfer port. Between the transfer port and where the rifling starts, there's a small little window of no rifling. And I try to get my skirt of the pellet in that little spot. So that way when the air hits the back of the pellet, it blows the skirt out, so it has tension, so when it enters the rifling, it kind of just cuts better. That's part of my OCD. So, but that's what I look for. And the smaller calibers, it's kind of hard to look up inside there. You might have to actually seat the projectile and then pull the barrel and look. The bigger calibers, 22 and up, you can kind of get in there. I have a magnifying glass with a light and another flashlight, and I can look from the backside, and you can see in there and see if you're close. And then I mark, I take note of how flush the end of this little collar is to the carrier, because it can stick out or be inside. So, and I kind of take note of if it's flush or if it's in one notch or what, and then I write that down on my notebook for the tune for that particular projectile in that caliber. So that way when I go back to it, I can get that depth right. So I have little notebooks, little 3x5s. I don't have it here on the table, but I put notes in that, and I have notes for all my different calibers, and whether it's a hot tune or a soft tune, and the speeds I'm looking at, the reg pressure, how many turns on the dwell. I take note on all that so I can get back into that ballpark and then just retweak it from there. Just what I do. The barrel, the old barrels have a machined flat spot for the 3 set screws that are on top. You'll have to remove your cheek piece to get in underneath there to go straight in on those. And I generally remove all 3 of them so I can look inside, so I can, as I rotate the barrel and I'm putting it in, I can see that I have the orientation of the barrel correctly before I tighten the set screws. And then I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's little markings from the set screws on here, and as you slide it in, you'll see those, and you can tell, okay, I got it right. And then as you tighten, I'll put a set screw and I'll go in and put it tight, and then it'll kind of rock the barrel and center it, and then and I'll kind of take all three of them, run it down, tighten it, loosen it, go to the next one, tighten it, loosen it, tighten it, and then that will shift the barrel and make it flat. Probably a little overkill, but it's what I do. And then when you I'm kind of going to be a little all over the place on this. There's a lot of different nuances. I'll recap, but when you pull the 3 set screws out, then you come over to here, and there's the barrel nut. I've made a wrench to get in there, and basically I just took an old 3/4 inch wrench and I turned it into a 25 millimeter or a 1 inch wrench. And this one happens to be really thin. It's really thin, so it can get in between the shroud and the back housing of the gun without having to remove the shroud and take the shroud off. I like keeping, I'm fortunate enough that I have, like 3-4 calibers already set up with the shroud already on it and tightened and tensioned and everything. So basically for me to do a barrel swap is the probe, the 3 screws, and the barrel tensioning nut. And I'll take that nut and break it loose, and then you can slide it forward, and then you can unthread that nut further, because it'll, as you thread it out, it'll hit the back side of the shroud, and then you have to slide the barrel and then spin it, slide the barrel, spin it, and then that all comes out in one piece. Then I'll transfer the little plastic collar, which is the bushing that pinches down on the barrel when you tighten the nut and the nut. I'll pull those off, slide it onto the new barrel, slide that all back together. Like I said, I'm fortunate that I have the shrouds. I'm going to cut away, and I'm probably going to do a different view of a barrel. I'm going to put it in a vise, and I'll show you how I tension it. But we're just going to go right now just real quickly. So the probe I don't necessarily remove right away, because sometimes it comes out easier once you pull the barrel out, because then there's a bigger hole for you to slide the probe into and rock it and bring it out the mag well. But I'll break that loose and get it close, get it ready. 3 screws, the barrel tensioning nut, slide it apart. When I go back together, I always put silicone on the 2 O-rings for the chamber, for the transfer port and chamber. Put silicone on there so that when you slide it in, you're not cutting them or anything, because then you're just, you're going to have issues, inconsistencies, and leaking air, not getting power that you want. Let's see. So, yeah, okay. So on the barrel, there's several components. You have the end cap that screws on. It screws on to what they call the monocore. And this is just a empty carbon tube. Nothing special about that. You have your monocore. On most of mine, except for the 177 and the 22 in redesign, I don't put the felt on it. Everything bigger than that, I don't. I just use my moderator, the Hush moderator, and screw that on, and then that's fine. I use it more as an air stripper, just what I do, no rhyme or reason to it. You have your collar that screws on, that you have 2 screws that tighten it to pinch it down onto the barrel to hold it into place. I'll get more into that, because there's a certain placement when you put it on, and like I said, I'll get into that, but I'm just showing you the components. And I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I want to show you the transfer port on this thing is massive. It's massive. And that's about the same size as the valve seat. I was saying it had massive transfer ports. They're that big. It's that big. There's like no restriction between the valve seat and the chamber. It's impressive. I think that at this point here, I kind of covered kind of that part of it. I want to talk about cleaning the gun, because that has, it has to do with the barrel. There's 2 things I have for cleaning the barrel, and a straw. got to have a straw. This is from Circle K. It's a good diameter of a straw, and I use the patchworm. I love that kit. It's phenomenal. It has multiple sizes on it, going from 177 all the way up to a 12 gauge with this particular kit. It comes with two little deals that have the patch dry and wet, and it has Bristol. And then I bought a pack of the patches from them as well. I think they're 3/4 inch patches. But anyways, the reason this is the deal is, imagine trying to pass that little weed whacker wire, you know, as this is the end of your barrel, right? And you're trying to feed that weed whacker wire. It tries popping out through these holes, and it gets stuck, and you can't get it out. It's a pain. It's a pain. But if you take the straw and you put it inside and hold it, and then start feeding the patchworm in, it'll enter the straw and then come out. And as it comes out, I just grab it and I do it. And that way you're not taking the shroud off. There's one drawback to the shroud system, is that when you remove the shroud and put the shroud back on, you're going to have a POI shift, and you're going to have to re-zero the gun. I found by the way I tension the barrel and put it together, using the magical straw and the patchworm, no POI shift at all, nothing at all, and I can do it really quick. I just feed it in so it curls in this way, and that makes because it's in a circle, right? So the weed whacker wire is going up against the top of the barrel as it's going. So when I put the straw in, I tilt the straw up a little bit, and then that way the string enters the straw easier. And so I just kind of curl it in and feed it out the other side, pull the patch through. I won't get into cleaning because it's kind of a personal preference, and some people like doing it certain ways, but I don't clean the barrel to where it's perfectly clean, actually. My last patch I pull through might still be a little grayish, unless I've changed ammo and I've gone from a really soft or really hard. I've changed a lot in the particular type of lead that it is. I'll really meticulously clean it and lead the gun in with that projectile, because it will make a difference. That's where you get a lot of flaking and changing. I know a lot of guys out there, man, they just throw all kinds of ammo just right on top of each other, and they're just shooting, you know. I find that kind of a little crazy, but I mean, if it's working for you, it works, so I'm not going to knock you. But if I change ammunition, I like to clean the barrel and start fresh with that one, to give the opportunity for the barrel to be broken in and leaded with the same kind of lead. If not, you could lead up to a lot of heavy leading in the barrel. Anyways, I'm drifting from the barrel. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about. I'm not getting any money from these guys. It's a very inexpensive. You can get it on Amazon. You can get the patches on Amazon. The Bristol you can get from Amazon. A lot of your local stores have this. I believe AOA carries patchworm and the patches. Circle K for the special blue straw. I just call it, it's one I found that works the best for me. You're basically just looking for a pretty firm straw, and one that's large enough in diameter so it doesn't go actually inside the barrel in your larger calibers, but even then it doesn't make a difference. I found this one works well for me in all the calibers. So yeah, on the carbon fiber tube, if you look at it in the right light, you'll see where there's a fabric line to where the fabric starts, and then it's wrapped, or if it's wrapped this way and then it stops, and you'll find there's a straight line on your tube. Like this one, I just found it. You kind of have to hold it with some reflection with the lights and stuff, and you'll see what looks like a seam, but it's just the end of the first layer. And I always take that and I make sure that's down. So I'll always find that, and when I put it together, I'll make sure that is down. So that way I'm always placing this in, because, you know, I mean, how close can this be machined on the ends to be perfectly, that when you tighten it, it doesn't pull the barrel up, down, left, right. So at least with this down here, I know when I tighten it, it's always going to pull the barrel in the same direction. That's if you're taking it apart, and that just gets you closer for less of a POI change if you ever take this apart. But like I said, I suggest setting it up, but, you know, not all of us have the ability to, you know, not everybody has the ability to, you know, have multiple barrels with the shrouds and all the pieces and everything. That gets expensive. Even though these aren't that expensive compared to the barrel. So when I clean, like I said, I don't remove the shroud so that I can feed the wire through or feed the thing through the core. I always try pulling the patch through from the chamber side and following the path of the projectile with the patch. Maybe again, that's OCD, but that's what I do. But on the tensioning, I'll go over it really quick. And I'll watch this and see if it made sense or not, and if I need to go and zoom in and do a better deal. But on the barrel, when you get this all set in and you have the barrel tension and everything, I try to align these adjustment screws so it's left or right on the gun. Doesn't matter, either one, whatever you feel comfortable setting it up with. And then I set this up so it's loose, but it has drag, so I can move it to a position and it holds it well. And then I put the carbon fiber tube on, and I put the end nut on, and I tighten that end nut to where it stops, not just like that, boom, done. And then I'll slide this up when this has tension, and now it holds it in place, right? So now it's holding it in place, and I have the distance with this bottomed out. At that point, I hold and make sure that this back piece doesn't move. And then I unscrew the cap. I'll put the, just so I have a marker, and I pass it through the holes on the end, and I'll take this and I'll back it off one full turn. Now I'll slide this up. So now it's tight, but I'm one turn out. And then I'll hold all this so it doesn't move anywhere. I unthread the end cap and pull the carbon fiber off, trying not to mess with that position of that. And then I will tighten these two screws. And the newer ones, they have, like, I think 4 screws, might be 6, 4 or 6, I don't remember which, but they've changed this a little bit. And I tighten this, and I tighten it pretty good, just so that it, you know, with all the harmonics and the energy and the shock that happens to the gun when you're shooting it, especially if you're shooting a 357, the barrel whips. So I like tightening that up pretty good, almost to a point where I feel like I might be rounding off the hex, but I tighten that really good. And then I go ahead and find that line on the carbon fiber tube, make sure it's down. I slide it all back together and put the cap back on, and now I have that one full turn that I have to tighten. And I put this in, and I put a Allen wrench through or whatever, and I'll turn that, and I get it pretty taut. I think I'll do that. I'm still going to put it in the video and put a takeaway and show you how I tighten it, and also kind of the sounds you get when you're really munching it. And that puts, I give myself one turn, and I probably adjust to 1/2 to 2/3 of a turn into that. So that puts a really good preload tension on the barrel. And then I leave that alone. Then I'm done. That's it. And like I said, I don't remove it after that. I don't do anything after that. To the shroud, I leave the shroud alone. and I use my straw and the patchworm to pull through to clean the barrel. And it makes it easier because you don't have POI changes, and it's just super quick. I clean on a bench in a matter of minutes, and I'm done cleaning, and then I can go ahead and move forward, especially if it's been a while since I've cleaned and I'm starting to have a point of impact shift, or I'm getting bigger groups. I'm like, yeah, something's not right here, and I'll pull a quick patch, and you know, you'll see like lead and little flakes, not big flakes, just little silvery dots and stuff. You go, yep, it was time to clean it. Yeah, so that's basically how I do with the barrel. But like I said, I'm going to break away and just do a quick barrel tensioning. I'll put that at the end. On the barrel indexing, the new barrels don't have the flat spot. Now they have 3 rings, so you could actually rotate that barrel all over the place. You know, you could be anywhere, so your transfer ports might not be aligned. What they're doing is they're putting a little index nipple at the very top, so you know that that's the top and that the transfer port goes down. My 177 barrel, it does. It has they've kind of changed the transfer port in the beginning portions of the barrels. I don't know if they're going to do it to all of them, but on my 177, this is actually brass back here. The first part of the barrel is all brass. Then it has a little dimple at the top that tells you where you're at, and then it has the just little round grooves. So with that one, you're not really going to know whether you're not looking for the flat spot through the set screws. You just want to back those off far enough. But I still do it. I like pulling the 3 screws out because I can follow and watch it coming in, and I can just watch it because I don't want to catch the O-rings, and I can tell where the O-rings are, so I can kind of give it a not so hard of a push and kind of get the O-rings to get through the glands, to say. The other part when you put your barrel on is how far in do you go? How's your adjustment? You could look at the one flat portion and have it flat with the receiver and have the one piece sticking out so that you so the mag clips in and holds itself. But basically what I do is I put when I'm doing I get the barrel close to where I want it and I'm in there and I haven't tightened the set screw or the barrel nut. I put the mag in and let it clip onto the barrel, and then I just slide the barrel up to where it touches and has a little bit of tension on the clip, not a lot, because if you put it in too far and you don't do this, your mag might not rotate. So you'll fire it and you'll cock it and then you'll just shoot air because it didn't ratchet because you pushed the barrel in too deep, and now you're stalling your magazine. And then you just, I play with it. I'll put it in and tighten it, and then I'll just make sure, that's nice, quick, and free. So my magazine rotates nice and free, and it holds the clip. It clips, pops in and out, perfect. So I think that's about it for the barrel. I'll break down now, and I'll set this up in the vise, and I'll go through just showing you how I tension it and have an idea of what that tensioning is. Yeah, I'm at 23 minutes here. This might be a little longer video than I thought, but information you all need. So, yep, I'll be right back. Okay, all set up on the bench now. It looks good. All right, so of course the barrel goes into the gun this way, so your receiver of the gun would start here, and this is where your barrel tensioning nut would be right in here. What I do is take a 3mm wrench and I tighten these to where I can move it, but it's taut. See, it's I have to put some force in it to keep it from, to make it move. And once I have it set up that way, I just put on the shroud and push it in to where I can get this nut, the end barrel nut on, and take it and turn it till it stops. You saw there I didn't put a lot of tension on it. I just turned it till it stopped. I slide and make sure it cups in correctly, and then I push this up. So now this is tight. You know, I can rotate it, but it's tight. And at that point, then I put my wrench in, and I will turn and back that off one full turn. And I'm just going to look at the holes for the sakes of the video. Now it's super loose, but then I'll take this, and you hear it click. I pull it in till it's tight now. Now I will hold this hole back in so it doesn't move and rotate, and I will take the nut off the end, slide this back, and then you go in, and I'll tighten that, and now it won't move on me. So I have to be careful that, you know, if you don't set this tight enough and you bump it a little bit one way, it's going to throw it all off. So you really want to make sure this stays in place after you tension. But see, I'm getting into this thing. I'm bowing this wrench, but you know, I'm feeling a mechanic by trade. I can tell when I'm getting ready to butter out a bolt because I'm overdoing it. But that's basically, I get that all nice and tight. Then slide it back on. I put the end cap back on, and at this point, I put I'll put my wrench in, or put whatever you're going to use for a straight piece there. And right now it's just stopped. So it's just snug by finger. And I will turn it. Well, now it's turning in the vise. I don't have the vise tight enough. And you hold the shroud, because remember how I was talking about the seam. You want to make sure the seam stays down. So I'll hold the shroud, and then I'll turn this. You hear that that kind of a chirping noise, and it's like, woo, okay, we're good. Now that's tensioned. In my mind, that's perfectly tensioned. And I do it that way every time, all the time, because with anything with an air rifle, consistency. Got to have consistency. Starts with this right here all the way through the whole workings of the gun. You know, you have to have consistency. You yourself need cadence when you're shooting, and it's consistency. That's how you shrink your grouping, you know. But yeah, so that's the barrel tensioning. That's how I like to do it. One of the advantages of the having the barrel tension correctly is you're looking for your harmonics, and so the harmonics of the barrel is like a wave. I don't know, most of you probably seen videos, and I'm trying to think, I think Matt Dubber did one where he had all the little graphs and all the stuff and everything, and it's a few years old. It's an older video. And he talks about that, and so once you find that one spot in the harmonics, that's where you want to be. Well, so if you're not tensioned, or there's something not right with the gun, and your harmonics are really tall waves, they're really tall waves, that gives that what I'll call a node, the one area that you want to be in, where you know, you get your consistency and your grouping can be really small. But when you tension the barrel and the gun's set up right, the waves are flatter, so it makes your node wider, and it makes it easier to find. That you might bump up a couple bar, and you might go right through the node. You know, and I might be extreme there, you know, it might be 3-4 bar, and you'll blow clean through your node, and your node is, you know, I'm using reference for not speed, but pressure. But your feet per second could be, you know, 20 feet per second window, and that's your node you want to be in to have a nice consistent shot. And then that relates to your feet, or your regulator pressure. So they're all related. So anyways, that's why it's important to have a properly tensioned barrel. And then, like I said, I kind of just leave this as this, and I never remove it unless I'm changing barrels. If I do have to remove it for whatever reason, you know, like I said, I have it clocked. And if you do remove it and put it back together, you're going to have a POI shift. You're going to get a shift. You're not going to be quite right, you know, with the seam on the bottom. But like I said, that's just things to pay attention to. Make sure you keep your seam down. Again, straw, patchworm, highly recommended. And yeah, I've had this patchworm for 4 years, the same one. So yeah, 20, 30 bucks, definitely worth it. But yeah, so that's it. I think I've covered the barrel and the barrel tensioning. I was going to start moving into a tuning, but I haven't talked about the trigger. The trigger is one thing to talk about, not a lot to cover. And then also the cocking lever on the gun is another thing to talk about. If you take your gun apart and put it back together, if you don't adjust the rod correctly, and your lever's not closing and shutting the action far enough, when you pull the trigger, it can blow the lever open and blow the probe back if you don't have it set correctly. And a lot of people have had that issue in the past. And with this goes back, you know, to all the guns, P1, P2, P3. If you don't adjust that correctly, that lever will blow open on you. So you need to make sure that that's adjusted correctly. But anyways, enough on that. Let's. But yep, here's your barrel. As I said before, you got any other questions? Throw it in the comments. I'm probably going to do a video later after all the videos settle in and we get some views in and we get more questions in the comments, and I will answer the comments anyways, but I'll also do a video, just say a Q&A, question and answers, and I'll take a lot of the questions that were asked and then actually answer them in a video. And then also there'll be other things that'll come up that maybe I wasn't clear on, and I'll cover those. So once I get through all the way to the tuning video, then I'll probably do a Q&A, and then after that it'll be little shorts to help explain the small things that maybe I didn't get into enough detail on. But basically I'm just trying to give everybody enough information about all the components to understand the little subtle nuances and what they all do and how they work together. So when I start talking about tuning, it makes more sense to you. And the tuning is subjective, it's opinionated. Everybody's got their own style of tuning, so we'll see how that is received. But it's just going to be the way I do it. You know, you might do it different and come up with the same result or better ones, who knows. But I'll just talk about how I do it. And it won't be like, this is the only way to do it. It's just, this is how I do it. So, but anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching, and enjoy.